Okay.
Hello, hello.
right.
I'm sorry I was late. I'll be real brief. I know that you've got a lot of information to hear about the power situation. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Catherine Rodman. I've been a legal services attorney for 25 years now. Started off at Legal Aid Society representing tenants in cases, and saw the need to do some impact work instead of just representing people that had individual problems, because without changing the dynamics, they were just going to keep having those same problems, which is when you use 70–80% of your disposable income for rent, as soon as there's any sort of emergency, like the car breaks down and you need to fix the transmission to get back and forth to work, or someone falls out of a tree and breaks their arm and you need to take them to emergency room, there goes part of next month's rent, and the crisis, comes again. So I've worked for the last 20 years to get redevelopment agencies who have custody of the biggest pot of money for affordable housing development to make sure that that housing fund gets enough money, all the money it should, that it's spent properly, and that they're looking at their obligations to build affordable housing. I know this group is familiar with redevelopment. I've looked at your website. It's got lots of good information about it. But just very briefly, redevelopment agencies, which are your city, your mayor and your city council sitting as the agency board, but now they have another. They have responsibility for implementing the redevelopment plans in the project areas. And for affordable housing, they have three primary obligations. One is to take at least 20% of the tax increment generated from the project areas and put it in a separate low and moderate income housing fund. I've looked at Chula Vista in comparison with all the other redevelopment agencies in the county and ranked them. They have an underfunding problem. They're not putting in all the money that they should. I've met with the city staff about it, and one possible explanation is that they're not reporting properly. They're actually using this money to repay some bonds, to repay some debt service, and instead of showing that it goes to the fund and then being spent for debt service, it's bypassing the fund. But their debt service expenditures reported during the same period are just a third of the underfunding that I found. So that doesn't account for all of it. So what I did is I update spreadsheets. I've got information from every agency in the county saying how much money they get each year for from what sources, what money they spend each year from the housing fund, and in what ways. Do they spend it, much of it, as Chula Vista does, on city staff salaries? Or do they spend it on buying land, building housing, helping people buy and have more options to rent affordable housing? What I found in Chula Vista is that over the multi-year period I looked at, their average use of the housing fund was 42% each year over these years was used for staff. And I asked them, what's the MO, what drove that decision? And I got a copy of their update for their full cost recovery program, which estimates the amount of time certain staff spend on housing or housing related programs, multiplies it by a factor of 2.973, and then charges the housing fund for that person. And I thought, well, you must be making a profit then, because so they don't keep time records, and they triple dip for staff costs. So some years it's as much as 85 or so % of the money they spend from the fund is for city staff. So the other concerns I was looking at were with the affordable housing that's been built, and there's some very good affordable housing that's been built. It is well designed, it's affordable. Are they managing it? Are they monitoring it properly? Do they have the deed restrictions in place to make sure that it will be affordable in the long run? And are they monitoring it annually as they're required to do? And have they built enough of these units? Because as an agency tears down housing, they're supposed to replace housing, each unit one for one within 4 years. And as new housing is built in a redevelopment project area, a certain minimum percent must be affordable, not project by project, but throughout the project area. So I looked at their numbers, and it's interesting because Chula Vista, like other cities, has reports, and the reports have data in them. But where did that data come from? A lot of new staff people, not really sure where the numbers came from. I've asked them, when you say that 344 units were built in the project area between this date and this date, what units were you counting? What went into that number? And when you say X number of these units are affordable, what units are you talking about? And then I requested the deed restrictions to see what they require to be affordable. And I asked for recorded deed restrictions with the agency because the agency is responsible for monitoring these. And instead I got unrecorded agreements with the city. And when I asked for monitoring reports to show compliance with redevelopment law, I got monitoring reports to show compliance with other programs, federal programs, tax credit allocation programs, or home or CDBG, some of which had all the information needed, others of which did not. So I was concerned about this, and they, along with another city that I'm looking at, I've written to them with the Public Records Act request, looked at all the documents they've produced, written to them about what my understanding of these documents is. The hot machine. I'm gonna have a hot plate. So we're just stand over here. One of my other issues today, my sprained ankle, my no food, and hot flashes. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, so wasn't it fun? Anyway, so when I look at these agencies, I want them, if they're willing to voluntarily correct these problems, to do so, and to do so expeditiously. I started doing my inquiry in Chula Vista July 11th of 2008, so we're not moving very fast. So at this point, I think I've gotten as much information as they're willing or able to give me at this time. I think they're looking for some answers, and the answers may prove that things are fine, or can be made fine with some simple tweaking and kind of programmatic changes. So I'm optimistic that that's the case, and I'm hoping it's true, because the other city I'm looking at has a lot more problems, and that would be San Diego. So, but what I want, what I was hoping is, as a legal services attorney, people that qualify for our services are represented free, and generally I like to work with a group of tenants and residents in a community that are interested in affordable housing, that represent all the various housing needs that the community has. Not just senior housing, not just housing for families with a lot of children, not just farm worker housing. You have a grower here, not just special needs housing, but all, the different housing needs that are represented, so that as we look at what the city has done wrong and ways in which they can correct it, that the input from the community is a balanced and inclusive one. So I'm looking for anybody that's interested in working with me to get the city to put its redevelopment housing house in order. And all that I can require that they do is meet the minimum requirements of state law. It would be great if they wanted to do more, and we can certainly say, wouldn't this be a great idea? But all that the law allows is that they comply with the minimum obligations of state law. But that doesn't seem to be something that they have been doing. So I think that there is some room for improvement, and I brought some business cards with me, some applications in English and Spanish. Hay personas que puede hablar en español solamente. I can speak some Spanish, and there's a translator here. Everyone's bilingual?
Everyone speaks
okay.
English or
and better English than my Spanish. So what I was hoping to do is and I've got a sign-up sheet, a place to put your name and address and phone number. If you aren't interested, but you know somebody who might be, what I'm hoping to do is find good times for people to meet and a good location here in the community, so that we could set up a meeting to go over the information in more detail.